Picture a Tuesday evening in October. A mother in Target pushing a half-full cart down the kid's clothing aisle. She is picking out a second winter coat for her 8-year-old. Same size as the one already hanging by his other door. Same brand, different apartment, except the coat is not for an extra layer, it is for a parallel life. There is a second toothbrush in a second bathroom, a second bed in a second bedroom, a second drawer of socks she will fold this Sunday and again the Sunday after. 2 of everything in 2 zip codes. We talk about divorce like it is an emotional event, a feeling, a chapter someone closes. But what most people don't see is the ledger underneath. A household is a compounding machine. 2 incomes, 1 mortgage, 1 set of fixed costs. When that machine splits, the costs duplicate, the assets halve, and the wealth building engine quietly becomes a wealth destruction engine. That second winter coat in the Target cart is not a coat. It is a duplicate line item. The first entry in a 20-year ledger that keeps adding long after the marriage stops. Before we go any further, let's be clear. When most people imagine divorce, they picture 2 adults moving on, a child adjusting, a family reshuffled. That image is wrong. The financial structure does not move on. It compounds in the opposite direction. A 2019 study in the Journal of Marriage and Family found that a child in a broken home loses more than 1,000 hours of parental time per year compared to a child in an intact household. That is 41 full days, 6 weeks of homework help, weeknight dinners, drives to practice, gone. Not because anyone stopped loving the child, because the ledger of 2 households cannot afford the time the original one had. This video walks through the math step by step from the moment a household splits to the moment the child inherits what is left. Before we get into the mechanics of what breaks, it helps to understand what existed before the break, what a household actually is, economically speaking. Because most people have never thought about their family as a financial instrument, but it is one, and understanding why it works is the only way to understand why splitting it is so destructive. But before we get into it, a quick word from today's sponsor. Stick with me, we come right back to the ledger on the other side. Have you ever thought about making money on YouTube but didn't want to show your face? Good news, you're already watching proof it works. This video right now is faceless. No camera, no on-screen host, just a topic, a voice, a main character, and visuals that keep you watching. And here's the wild part, you don't need a studio. You don't need editing skills. You don't need to write scripts. You don't need animation skills, voice acting talent, expensive software, or a single piece of equipment. You don't even need a microphone. Topic2video.com does all of it for you. Type your topic, get a finished video ready to upload straight to your channel. Voiceover, visuals, captions, thumbnail, title, description, and shorts. Your first video is free at topic2video.com. No credit card needed to start. Create the channel you've been putting off with topic2video.com today. Okay, back to the ledger. Back to the 2 coats, the 2 toothbrushes, the 2 zip codes. To understand why splitting a household is so financially destructive, you first have to understand what a household actually is, not emotionally, mechanically. Because most people have never thought about their family as a financial instrument, but it is one, and it is one of the most efficient ones ever built. Start with the machine itself. The median American household earns roughly $100,000 a year. That number is not just income, it is the engine of a specific financial logic. 2 adults, 1 address, 1 mortgage, 1 utility bill, 1 car insurance policy, 1 refrigerator. The fixed costs of living, rent or mortgage, heat, electricity, internet, insurance get split across 2 income streams and 2 sets of labor. One person cooks while the other handles the car. One builds equity while the other manages the daily cash flow. The household is not just a place people sleep, it is a compounding unit. The mortgage builds equity every month. The 401k contributions from both earners accumulate together. The shared cost base means a larger fraction of total income is available to save, invest, or pay down debt. A two-income household does not just earn twice as much as a single-income one. It keeps a disproportionately larger share of what it earns because fixed costs do not scale with income. Whether you make $60,000 or $120,000 rent is roughly rent. So the household that earns more and shares costs retains more. This is why economists have long recognized that marriage, stripped of all its emotional content, is a wealth-building partnership. Not romantic, not moralistic, just mechanical. Two people sharing fixed costs and pooling capital accumulate wealth faster than two people paying those same fixed costs separately. The math is not subtle. A household with $1 million in combined retirement savings, growing at 7% annually, doubles to $2 million in roughly 10 years. At that pace, by retirement, the number is not $1 million anymore. It is substantially more. And it got there because two people were compounding together under one roof, splitting one set of bills. Now, stop the machine. The divorce proceeding is not at its core a legal event. It is a financial partition. Every asset that was compounding together, the home, the retirement accounts, the investment portfolio, gets divided. And the division does not just cut the number in half. It ends the compounding. Take that $1 million 401k. A court splits it using a legal instrument called a Qualified Domestic Relations Order, a QDRO. Each spouse walks away with $500,000. That sounds equitable, but the $500,000 that leaves the account will not grow the same way it would have inside the original structure. The 20-year compounding trajectory on $1 million at 7% produces roughly $3.9 million. Two separate $500,000 accounts, each growing at 7%, produce the same $3.9 million in theory, but only if nothing disturbs them. And in a divorce, almost everything disturbs them. Legal fees, liquidation events, career disruption, early withdrawal penalties. The compounding clock gets reset at the worst possible moment, right when the accumulation phase was building momentum. Vanguard's analysis of household dissolution estimated that the effective lost value, accounting for compounding interruption, is not $500,000. It is more than $1 million in foregone 20-year growth. Then there are the direct transaction costs. Legal fees for a contested divorce average $15,000 to $30,000 per side. That is $30,000 to $60,000 in combined household wealth transferred directly to attorneys, money that was not invested, not saved, not passed to children. The American legal fee economy around divorce is estimated at over $10 billion annually. That is not money resolving disputes. That is money evaporating. For women, the financial damage is asymmetric and lasting. Census Bureau data shows a net income drop of roughly 27% for women post-divorce. Over a lifetime, that compounds into a 20 to 30% reduction in total lifetime earnings. For men under 40, the picture is counterintuitively different. Census longitudinal data found a 15% wage premium within 5 years of divorce, likely because the removal of the household's shared financial obligations pushed men to work harder and earn more. It is a useful counterweight to the narrative that divorce only disadvantages one gender, but it does not change the household math. Both adults can be individually motivated and still leave the combined unit worse off than it was, and none of this yet accounts for the child. Follow the kid. The child shuttling between two households is not living in two homes. Economically, the child is running two households because everything that child needs, a bed, a dresser, a winter coat, school supplies, a car seat, a toothbrush, a set of shoes that fit, must exist in both places. Not because either parent is wasteful, but because the child's life cannot be efficiently packed and unpacked twice a week. The duplication is not a choice. It is a structural cost of the arrangement. Meanwhile, the two households absorbing these costs are each running on a budget that was never designed for one income. The median household that earned $100,000 as a unit is now two households, each trying to function on $50,000 or less in gross income, but each paying full rent, full utilities, full insurance. Fixed costs do not have when a household splits. They duplicate. Researchers who have modeled this find that each post-divorce household typically operates at roughly 60% of the purchasing power the original unit had, even when total combined income stays constant. For custodial parents, the majority of whom are mothers, the pressure is acute. Courts set child support at 20 to 25% of the non-custodial parent's income under federal guidelines. But 50% of child support arrears nationally stem from unemployment, according to HHS data from 2023. The system was designed assuming stable employment. It does not bend well to reality. When payments fall behind, the enforcement apparatus activates wage garnishment, driver's license revocation, professional license suspension, and for more than 1 million people per year, incarceration. The logic of this system: jail the parent who cannot pay, which eliminates their ability to earn, which increases the arrears, which extends the enforcement cycle, is an economic trap. It does not collect money. It destroys the earning capacity of the person who owes it. The ACLU has documented over 1 million annual incarcerations tied to child support non-payment. Most of those individuals are not avoiding their obligation by choice. They are caught in an enforcement machine that was built for a stable employment economy and applied to a gig economy, recession-prone one. The child, meanwhile, is losing something the financial statements do not capture directly, but the research does: time. A child in a broken home loses more than 1,000 hours of parental time annually compared to a child in an intact household, according to a 2019 study in the Journal of Marriage and Family by Bernardi and colleagues. That time is not just emotional, it is human capital investment, homework help, meal preparation, supervision, extracurricular transportation. When that time disappears, it is often replaced by paid childcare, latchkey arrangements, or simply not replaced at all. Either way, it costs money, or it costs the child's development, or both. Now, pull back from the individual household and look at the population. 40% of American children currently live in single-parent homes, according to Pew Research data from 2022. That is not a fringe statistic. That is the dominant childhood experience for a substantial share of an entire generation. The economic outcomes attached to that experience are not ambiguous. Single mothers face a poverty rate of 27%. For married couples with children, that rate is 5%. The gap is not explained by income alone. It is explained by the structural difference between one household and two, between shared fixed costs and duplicated ones, between compounding wealth and fragmented wealth. 92% of American children receiving welfare come from broken homes, according to HHS data cited by the Heritage Foundation. The federal welfare system, food assistance, housing subsidies, Medicaid, exist in large part as the public financial backstop for the broken home economy. Depending on methodology, that cost runs somewhere between $33 billion and $112 billion annually. The lower figure, $33 billion, represents verifiable welfare expenditures identified in GAO analysis. The higher figure, from economist Ben Scaffidi's 2008 Institute for American Values report incorporates modeling of downstream costs, including criminal justice and healthcare. Use the range. The uncertainty in the upper figure is real, but even the floor is not a rounding error. None of this is the child's fault. The child did not choose the economic structure they were born into, but that structure shapes their economic future in ways that are statistically predictable. Children from broken homes have twice the rate of depression compared to children from intact households, according to a CDC meta-analysis from 2020. Depression is not just a health outcome. It correlates with lower educational attainment, higher dropout rates, earlier entry into the workforce, and lower lifetime earnings. The emotional damage and the financial damage are the same pipeline. The welfare cliff makes it worse. A single mother earning just above the income threshold for benefits does not gain, she loses. For every additional dollar earned, she can lose up to $3 in benefits. Food assistance, housing vouchers, Medicaid eligibility. The Congressional Budget Office modeled this cliff in 2022. The result is a structural disincentive to earn more, built directly into the benefit system. It does not just fail to lift families out of poverty, it actively punishes them for trying to climb. And then the cycle. Children who grow up in broken homes are statistically more likely to repeat the pattern. The repeat divorce rate among those who experience parental divorce in childhood is estimated at 70%, according to the Institute for Family Studies. Lower educational attainment going in, less financial preparation coming out, higher early family formation rates, and then another household splits, another set of fixed cost duplicates, another compounding clock stops. The U.S. fertility rate has now fallen to 1.6 births per woman, according to CDC data from 2023. Demographers tie this decline partly to delayed marriage and delayed family formation, driven in part by risk aversion among adults who grew up watching households dissolve. The downstream effect of the broken home economy is not just poverty within broken homes. It is an entire generation recalibrating how much they are willing to bet on building a household at all. Come back to the two Christmas trees. You see them differently now. You see two rent payments. You see a $1 million retirement account that became $500,000 and then, after legal fees, enforcement costs, and career disruption, became something considerably smaller. You see two sets of fixed costs running on two budgets that were designed for one. You see 1,000 hours a year of parental time that was not there. Not because anyone stopped loving the child, but because the logistics and economics of two households consumed it. The child at the center of this picture does not enter adulthood disadvantaged because of bad parenting or bad luck. The disadvantage is mechanical. It was built into the structure the moment the household split. Lower supervision meant higher childcare costs or lower development investment. Lower parental income meant less in the college fund. The interrupted compounding meant less inherited wealth. The statistical pipeline toward depression meant lower educational attainment. Each mechanism fed the next quietly over years, the way compound interest works, except in reverse. The $100,000 household that became two $50,000 equivalent households did not just produce two poorer adults. It produced a child who enters the economy at a structural deficit and who faces a 70% chance of repeating the cycle. This is not a story about divorce being wrong. It is not a story about fault. The economic structure does not care about fault. It just runs. Fixed costs duplicate whether the separation was mutual or not. Compounding stops regardless of who filed first. The child's 1,000 lost hours are the same whether the split was hostile or amicable. The word we use, broken home, sounds like a feeling. It sounds like sadness, like something emotional and soft and personal. But the word that actually fits is ledger, a broken ledger, one that was adding and then stopped. One that was compounding and then halved. One that will keep running, just at a fraction of what it was for the next 2 decades through the child's entire upbringing and into their own financial life after that. We call it a broken home, like it's just a feeling. But the math doesn't care how anyone feels, it just keeps compounding or it stops.